Well, hello, beautiful artisans. Welcome to Echo Art with Carmella-T. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We focus heavily on creating with recycled materials. I encourage you to reuse, repurpose, repair, be creative. Don't worry about the patterns. Don't worry about if it has to be absolutely perfect. Go for it and enjoy, because the humbleness of a piece of art is what makes it so very beautiful. So, and if you are coming back, welcome back. I am so happy to have you. I welcome your suggestions and just kind of checking in and your ideas, and I'm so grateful for all of you. So I'll tell you something today. I am very excited because I wanted to do a couple of different videos, and I said, you know what? I'm going to put these videos together. So I want to talk to you first. We're going to do a couple of little clips on the statistics related to waste in the environment. It's a very difficult subject for any of us to really think about, even envisions to see. So we're going to do that at the beginning, though, because it's super important to help us all get things in perspective. And there are many good things happening in the recycling industry. I just see it as totally growing. But with all of that said, us, the worker bee, I believe we do so much right now to help the environment. It's not just thrifting, right? It is sorting out your cardboard, your glass, cans, paper, anything, your foods, anything that can be recycled, sorting it all out. And that contributes largely to the waste issue. And the other side of it is, as artists, as we create with scrap fabrics, we are using, I mean, when I think about how much scrap fabric has gone through here, and I've sold it or I've given it away as gifts, after I have created something with it, it adds up. I mean, the mounds can add up. So with that, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about slow fashion. Is this slow fashion? Yes, this falls into slow fashion. So we're going to talk about that. Am I a big slow fashion industry? No. But I practice slow fashion. Does that mean that I stitch slow? No, not necessarily. It does not. But we'll go into more what it means. So with that, we're going to start off talking a little bit about the waste in our environment. So see you in the next. Okay, everyone. So I have a number of articles I really want to just highlight some information for you. And the first one is from the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency of our government. So it talks about the national overview, facts and figures on materials, wastes, and recycling. And it has a lot of detail. So we're just going to get some highlights out of this article, and I'll probably be looking over here so I can look at the larger monitor and make sure I am reading this easily for you and reviewing it with you. The statistics are dated and from 2018. So it takes a number of years for the agency, and really any agencies, to gather and get accurate readings on their information on the waste, since it's so transient. It's in movement constantly, and different factors are involved. But so the EPA started collecting information on the disposition of waste, and what they call generation. That means waste generated. So in more than 35 years ago. So the agency uses the information to measure the success of materials management programs across the country, to characterize the national waste stream. So it gives them an idea where the maybe bottlenecks are, where high production of certain types of waste are. So these facts and figures come from the calendar year 2018. So the total generation of what they call this MSW, for those of you who are not familiar, MSW is municipal solid waste. And in 2018, it was 292.4 million tons. And or they to give it in perspective, it's 4.9 pounds per person a day per person. So that's like, imagine you filling your backpack every day of garbage and just going to the landfill and just dumping it. And then there's 5 of you in the household, and each of you do that. This 20 pounds a day, 140 pounds a week. I mean, does it add up fast? So, now I believe our little us worker bees are really working very hard to recycle, and there's many things happening in the recycling industry. So there's good news also, and we're going to be getting to a lot of the good news. But we want to be as realistic as possible with what's going on right now today to help us. So, because I really believe this, when you share information like this, sometimes there's somebody out there who has an idea and they're just keeping it to themselves, and all they need to do is hear something like this. And it might be as simple as them going to start a thrift shop or going to start a recycling center. And all of a sudden, this person the domino effects kick in and they make a huge, big difference in this world. That's called the butterfly effect. I totally believe in that. So that's why I think it's really important that we share our knowledge. So, of the MSW, the municipal waste, solid waste generated, approximately 69 million tons were recycled and 25 million tons were composted. So together, almost 94 million tons were recycled or composted. So they go in there and they talk about an additional 17 million tons and how that was, how those food and how that was managed by other methods, including feeding animals. So I go into a lot of detail there. So EPA refers to trash, or MSW, as various items consumers throw away that are used. These items include bottles, corrugated boxes, food, grass, clippings, sofas, computers, tires, and refrigerators. Ooh, yeah, we know the life of a refrigerator isn't necessarily that long. Now, they have grass clippings in here. I find that interesting because that is such a natural, organic grass clippings. They find that in the garbage, so they're counting that as MSW. However, MSW does not include everything that may be landfilled at the local level, such as construction, demolition, CD debris, municipal wastewater sludge, and other non-hazardous industrial waste. This really opens our eyes, because we're just thinking the waste that we put in the garbage, right? And there's so many other types of waste. There's hazardous, non-hazardous, and it goes on and on. Now they give a nice little graphic here of the waste management hierarchy. And so let's see here. Source reduction and reuse is at the top if I'm reading. Oh, most preferred. This is what they prefer us to do. Reduction. So if you don't need something, maybe don't just buy it to buy it, right? So kind of shifting our thinking a little bit, and reusing. Reuse as much as we can. I like to think of the idea of giving it to a neighbor, giving it to somebody who really needs this certain thing. So in a way of sharing. I grew up in a household where not hardly anything was thrown out. Everything was either saved or given away to someone who could use it. So next under the for most preferred is recycling and composting. The next under that is energy recovery. Excuse me, I am not exactly sure of all of what that particular one means. And then the next one, least preferred for waste management, is treatment and disposal. Maybe they'll give us the definition of the energy recovery. If not, maybe one of you know more detail about that, or we can find that out. So EPA is now in the process of reviewing this waste hierarchy to determine if the potential changes should be made on the latest available data and information. So that's why it takes so long for the data to come out. There's an incredible amount of data and assessments and reassessments. Excuse me. So I want to skip down here. This is a nice little chart that I've looked at before. Now, generation is a term you're going to hear now more and more. And this is how they talk. The total generation of MSW in 2018 was 292.4 million tons, which was approximately 23.7 million tons more than what was generated in 2017. This is an increase from the 268.7 million tons generated in 2017 and the 208.3 million tons in 1990. So we see the big jump from almost 100 million, right? From 1990 to 2018. Now this chart gives some figures here when we put our little cursor on it. So it percentage wise, it's showing us paper and this is total MSW generated by material 2018. Paper and paper board was 23.05% or 390,000 tons of paper and paper board. We know our neighborhoods and communities have an excellent system for paper, cardboard, glass, cans, plastics. We do pretty darn good. The ones I'm worried about are textiles and rubber, and they talk about those. They have it in the chart here. So glass was about 250,000 tons, or 4.19%. So you see the larger percent is the paper. Metals were 25,600,000 tons, or 8.76%. So plastics were 35,000, see, I can't even wrap my brain around. We're talking millions. 35,680,000 tons of plastics. So this number between you and I thought would be larger. Look at the yard trimmings. So this kind of baffles me. I don't know about you. Let me know what you think. Does this make sense? Now, I know some people might have in little communities. I was up in the woods. So if there were any wood debris, it went in the woods. But I am now in a town and I notice people have little yards. And so maybe, but you would think if they're taking shrubs or they're trimming their shrubs, that the natural thing to do would either be to use it maybe in a little campfire, or to put it along the other plants. I don't know. So I find that odd, but that's 35 million tons, 400,000 tons of yard trimmings. Food, look at this. 63,130 tons. So now this is a number I would think we could get down to. And I say that because let's think about it. I mean, you know, there's a lot of food. I guess, you're talking about food, okay, uneaten food, food that has spoiled. If you're emptying out of the jars, you're putting the jars in recycle. I mean, I could see where we could get that number down, I would think. So, and then wood is not much. Rubber and leather is 9,160,000 tons. Textiles. So this is our thing, right? Textiles. So we talk all the time on this channel. Let's recycle, let's reuse, repurpose, repair. And in that, I say, let's share and distribute. Does it have to go to the thrift shop? Some thrift shops are a little picky and they won't even take certain things. So what do you do with that? You bring it back and throw it in the garbage? Or can you bring it back and, cut it into strips, maybe braid it, maybe find a crafter, post it on the community forum. So there, maybe we need to work a little harder, but I think we could get rid of more of the textiles in a way where we're managing them so they're not going into the landfills so much. So let's see here. Down here, it had a little more information. Um, this is talking about how the MSW increased over the years, and we kind of went over that a little bit. There's lots and lots of detail. Total MSW recycled was more than 69 million tons, with paper and paperboard accounting for approximately 67% of that amount. Metals comprise, they're talking about recycling here. Metals comprise about 13%, while glass, plastic, and wood made up between 4 and 5%. So, okay, this just gives you an idea, just off the top, with just a few figures on what is going on with solid waste that ends up in the landfills. So the next clip, we're going to take a look at the ocean. Okay, my beautiful artisans. So we are going to talk about the ocean. And this is according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So again, this is our government, the U.S. Department of Commerce. So I'm staying with facts on all of this. Now, there are a lot of awesome sites out there that do actually come to this site and they will reverberate the facts for us, and they do a beautiful job. So, but I come right to the government sources. And this article, it's talking about ocean pollution and marine debris. So we're going to kind of skim it a little bit and go over this. So each year, billions. So this isn't in the millions. This is a billions of pounds of trash and other pollutants enter the ocean. Where does the pollution come from? Where does it go? So some of the debris ends up on our beaches, washed in with waves and tides. Some debris sinks. Some is eaten by the marine animals that mistake it for food. And we know what the result of that is many, many times as they're eating plastic and they're getting things in their system that they cannot digest. And some accumulates in what they call ocean gyres. And I think they're talking about the garbage patches here. So I'm really gonna skip down in this article to that section. So other forms of pollution that impact the health of the ocean come from things like oil spills, and they've got so much going on. We're gonna cover that too, because some of the things that are going on in the ocean. Oh my God. We're not talking just drilling. We're talking the sounds down there that these poor marine animals have to listen, just it's unbelievable. So we'll get into all of that. But and so, or from accumulation of many dispersed sources, such as fertilizer from our yards. So this goes in a little more detail on where it comes from. So the majority of pollutants that make their way to the ocean come from human activity along the coastlines and far inland. One of the biggest sources of pollution is non-point source pollution, which occurs as a result of runoff. So non-point source pollution can come from many sources. So you think of runoff, you know what I mean? And here they say like septic tanks, vehicles, farms, livestock ranches, timber harvest areas. Now I am going to assume, especially in the farming community, they are very much more conscious about where the runoffs, and they'll probably dig and make sure that there's proper runoff, or curving it as much as possible. I have, but it is listed here. Yes, pollution that comes from a single source, like an oil or chemical spill, point source pollution events often have very large impacts, but fortunately they occur less often. Discharge from faulty or damaged factories, so that's huge. I have to tell you, I worked for a little factory many, many years ago, and it was in the clothing industry. And yes, I mean, they generated an incredible, actually there were a number of factories all along that road, and they were all in the clothing and garment industry. And from the dyes to the chemicals, washing out everything. And they had to be in compliance with the town to make sure those were not going into the local drinking water, bodies of water. So, discharge from faulty or damaged factories or water treatment systems is also considered point source pollution. So that's a new word today, or a new phrase, a terminology: point source pollution. So we're going to skip down here. This goes a little bit into the scientific of red tides, hypoxia or dead zones, and they're talking about algae blooms and whatnot here. So this is a whole other natural part of the ecosystem. And if they get too abundant, that they can be a cause for concern also. So we come down here to marine debris, and the marine debris is persistent pollution problem that reaches throughout the entire ocean and the Great Lakes. So think about that one. It even goes into the Great Lakes. Our oceans and waterways are polluted with a wide variety of marine debris, including, and here we go, microplastics. And some of us have heard it called nanoplastics. But the microplastics are smaller than 5 millimeters to derelict fishing gear and abandoned vessels. Worldwide, hundreds of marine species have negatively impacted the marine debris, which causes harm and kills the animal that ingests it, and they become entangled in it. I remember many, many years ago, a friend of mine, we were in Massachusetts on the shore, and there was it looked like a great blue heron. It was a crane of some kind. It was beautiful. I don't think it was a great blue, but it was a crane, and it was entangled in a fishing net. And my friend was able to get. He had his little fishing knife. He was a fisherman. He was able to get the beautiful creature out of the entangled fishing line. So can threaten the habitats that they depend on. Marine debris can also interfere with navigation and potentially pose a threat to human health. So this is something I want to share with you because it goes into a little bit more detail about the marine debris entering the ocean and the Great Lakes through littering, poor waste management, storm water discharge, and extreme natural events as tsunamis and hurricanes. And I just want to say with that, we just had heavy rains here. And right up the street, we have the river. It comes over from Winooski, what they call Winooski, Vermont. It is still chock full of mud. And we had those rains last week. I'm talking mud, mud, mud. I don't even know. It's unbelievable. That's what the rains did. So the storms can dig up all types of things and they can clog the water systems. So now this is what I wanted to share with you. This is, if some of you haven't heard of these, this is called garbage patches. And they are not merely patches, but they are, and it talks about here, they are actually islands of trash. The term garbage patch is misleading nickname, making you believe it's patches when they are islands of trash that are visible from afar. These areas are actually made up of debris ranging in size of microplastics to large bundles of derelict fishing gear. This is so concerning. I mean, wait till you hear this. These patches are formed by large rotating ocean currents called, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. It's like tire gyre. I would say gyre. That pull debris into one location, often to the gyre's center. There are 5 gyres in the oceans. One is in the Indian Ocean, 2 are in the Atlantic Ocean, 2 are in the Pacific Ocean. The garbage patches are varying sizes and are located in each gyre. Due to winds, currents, garbage patches are constantly changing size and shape. Now, the debris that makes up the garbage patches can be found from the surface all the way to the ocean floor. I mean, just wrap your head around that for a second. Um, so, the ocean, I think of it like this. I really do. This is this is my own little theory going on. But we're going to cover about the article about the house that just fell into the ocean over in North Carolina. But this is my thought. When we think about the shores eroding, and you got all these garbage patches there, you got to think about how much those weigh, like the plastics and all of the garbage and just the momentum all by itself that the ocean is kind of, wants to regurgitate these things. So they're kind of, the force maybe is getting stronger from these garbage patches because like they said, they're not patches. They're not like the size of your house, the diameter of your house or your yard. These are huge. They are miles and miles and miles wide in diameter. And they change size, but the depth is from the surface all the way to the floor of the ocean, which is thousands of feet. I don't know how many feet that is. So, we'll have to do a deep dive into this at some point. But so my thoughts are that the momentum of those waves are even crashing harder into our shorelines and eroding them quicker. That's my thought. I'm not a scientist. That is just like me deducting maybe what's going on a little bit. Um, so the impact of marine pollution on seafood. Um, so on seafood. So think about this for a second. Some of us love fish. I love fish. You're going to see me eating fish way before you're going to see me eating any meats. So heavy metals and other contaminants can accumulate in seafood, making it harmful to humans to consume. Microplastics can be ingested by the fish and the other species, and then guess what? That goes into you. So, with more than a third of the shellfish growing waters in the U.S. adversely affected by coastal pollution, it's important for NOAA and its partners to study the impacts. You know, And I love that they're studying this because we human beings, like, they're like, okay, well, show me the evidence and then I'll change. But it's sad that we have to come to that because it should just change to be a healthier practice. It is common sense that these nanoplastics and microplastics end up in the ocean. It's common sense that the marine life is going to ingest it either by mistake or at some point. So I wanted to share that with you about the ocean. And the next one I'm going to share is that article with you. Okay, everyone. So this article is about, it's titled "The Sixth House in 4 Years Collapses into the Atlantic Ocean Along North Carolina's Outer Banks." And when you see these photos, I believe you're going to have the same questions that I have. So this article was written May 29th, 2024, and it's by CBS News. First, I'm going to read this before I show you. The photo is very frightening. Another house has collapsed into Atlantic Ocean along North Carolina's coast. The sixth to fall along the Cape Hatteras National Seashores beaches in the past 4 years, according to the U.S. National Park Service officials. About 1 mile of the beach along Ocean Drive in Rodan on the Outer Banks was closed after Tuesday's collapse. The National Seashore urged visitors to avoid these beaches north of Sea Haven Drive into the southern portion of Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge, since dangerous debris could be on the beach and now in the water. So take a look at this. Like, seriously? Take a look at this. This is the house. Now, this is my question. And I know you're thinking the same thing. Look at this house, and this house, and this house. And look at the shore. Look at the water. Why is the state, for safety and health reasons for human beings and the ocean, because guess what? Now all that stuff is now in the ocean. Have they put out an alert and say, this is now in the water and it needs to come down? I mean, look at that house. They could, if the state kicks in and helps these people, they could easily move those houses and they'd have a house fully intact. They could live somewhere else. They could be safe. Why are those houses remaining? Because you can tell clearly they're not going to be there too long. Now, apparently, this house was unoccupied in Rodolph, if that's how they say it. I apologize. North Carolina, just south of Rodolph Pier, collapsed in the ocean May 28th, 2024. Now, the National Seashore employees moved dozens of pickup trucks of debris to the nearby parking lot on Tuesday and Wednesday. The public was invited to help employees, and a contractor hired by the owner of the house, which was unoccupied when it fell. So again, I can't say this enough. I mean, is this not common sense to look at that? Do we need to be engineers to figure out that they are next when they were right next to this house and the water is at the same level? So why, sometimes I wonder, do we wait for the catastrophes? Like, we know what's happening. So it's the same with the waste. We know what's happening. 2 years ago, a video of the beach house sinking in the Atlantic on the Outer Banks went viral on social media. The same year, a NASA report warned the sea levels along the U.S. could rise as much as 12 inches. by 2050, 50, with the Southeast and the Gulf coasts seeing the most change. The report said 13 million Americans could be displaced by 2100. So the statistics are a little off because we're in 2024. So the population will be totally different by 2100. And, but, I guess they can prorate their calculations. But still, I guess uh, um, we could surmise it will be in the millions that Americans will be displaced. But we know this is coming. So, there's a few things we could be doing. We could be building up levels of the land up on higher. I'm not saying build mountains on the shoreline. However, build build higher areas, like redistribute some of the earth to make higher areas on the land, because this is definitely happening. So yeah, maybe we build mountains. Just, I mean, why not? We build skyscrapers and throw some dirt as high as the skyscraper, we'll have a mountain. Um, so the study published Nature Communications last year found that since 2010, sea level rise along the nation's southeast and Gulf coasts have reached rates unprecedented in the last 120 years. So here's another picture, and you can see here where the ocean, where the sand has been pushed back. So this water is surpassing these houses that are still standing. Look at there's curtains there. I mean, it looks like there could be people living there. There's a satellite dish. I mean, is um what I mean, do we ignore, is the issue being ignored? Um um I mean, so, and why give a person an option like move or take down, like move or stay there? Why not have the state where it's very obvious that their home is in jeopardy say, we, as the state of whatever, North Carolina, New York, New Hampshire, whatever it is, we're going to help you move that house and get it to a location where you're safe. That is common sense. That is compassion, and that is caring. Look at this tank right here. And you see the little stool, but look at the tank. Is it a water tank, propane tank? What is that? Because guess what? That is now affecting marine life. So, okay, we see what's happening. It makes me want to move onto the ocean, like front, like onto the beach, like not like that, but maybe a few hundred feet back and up a little, but be there so I can be a voice. I don't know. We can't be everywhere at once, but it seems like there's not enough, in my opinion, being done. If we see this and we're like, oh, okay, another house went down, that's the sixth one now. So you got 7, 8, 9, 10. You got 4 more sitting next to it, ready to go. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because it's clear. It's clear here that we can see the ocean is right beyond these houses. The ocean has pushed the earth back. So it's probably going to push these pieces of wood back for sure. That's just an assumption. I would say I'd say probability is very high. So North Carolina's coast is entirely made up of narrow, low-lying barrier islands that are increasingly vulnerable to storm surges and to being washed over from both the bay and the sea as the planet warms. As the sea levels rise, these islands typically move toward the mainland, frustrating efforts to hold properties in place. So see, this is what I'm saying. This like drives my personality absolutely, because I want people to be safe. So let's read that again. Yeah, see, as sea levels rise, these islands typically move toward the mainland, frustrating efforts to hold properties in place. Now, there are cultures on our globe around the world that have what they call houses, water houses, like they live on the water. But it's a very calm, like they're in a river. It's a very calm water scenario, let's say. The behavior of this is the ocean. Yeah, they're trying to hold the properties in place. So, it's obvious that that's coming, and you can see right here. There's a few more right there. The ocean is coming up. You can see, look at this land. It's who knows what I don't think I think 2100 is very optimistic. If this is rising that fast, 12 inches at a time over a certain number of years or whatever, uh, it bringing these houses down now, you can see right here, it's almost at the back door of this whole row of houses right here. So those are probably next. They know it's coming up. So what can they do to change whatever it is they're doing? Some beaches in the state have been losing about 13 feet a year, according to National Park Service. 13 feet a year. Okay, that's astounding. So that's crazy. So yeah, if that's true, this is going to be right up at their doorstep by next year. So those will be next. In 1999, the historic Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, located on one of the state's barrier islands, was moved nearly 3,000 feet inland, a warning of the dramatic climatic changes to come. So it was located on one of the state's barrier islands. So they actually moved it 3,000 feet. So that's good. That's what I'm talking about. A whole bunch of that needs to keep happening. So anyway, that is what's going on there. So that's very recent. That's May 2024. And anyway, with that, okay, let's go to the next clip. Okay, everyone. So I love this site. It's called earth.org. And when they write an article, they really write it exquisitely, so well. So now I shared what is slow fashion over on Patreon. I covered this particular article with some other informational articles. However, I covered it in greater detail, so that's over on Patreon. But here I want to just really highlight so you get an idea on what slow fashion is. So I don't want to dive too much into fast fashion, although the author here does mention it. And this is written by Francine Vito and July 27th in 2022. And the name of it is Explainer, What is Slow Fashion and How Can You Join the Movement? So she very first starts off with talking about fast fashion retailers, um, that they are constantly trying to grow their sales and meet goals and, live up to their investors' expectations, and that they don't really give a lot of, recognition to the climate change, the environment, or even the employees' interests. Now, this is what is being talked about in this article. And I have seen that mentioned. It is part of the ideology of slow fashion. This is why she's mentioning it in the fast fashion world, because in slow fashion, they do pay attention to the employees' working conditions, hours that they're putting in, and what they're doing. So the slow fashion movement asks companies to hit the brakes on excessive production and unethical practices that plague the industry, inviting consumers to rethink their relationship with clothes and shopping. So what is slow fashion? How does it differ from unsustainable fast fashion market? And why should we do more to support this movement? So I'm going to skip down here and where she describes beautifully what slow fashion is. So slow fashion, she described, first of all, okay, so we're going to start here. Slow fashion is a movement that advocates for the environment and for social justice and working conditions in the fashion industry. Its defining point is that it zeroes in on the problem of overproduction and overconsumption. Slow fashion came at the heels of the slow food movement. And we know the slow food movement is a spin-off from that's from like 1980s, and the ideology of slow stitching and slow this and slow that kind of were little spin-offs from it. However, it is a nice way to coin uh, the industry that is paying attention to the environment and its workers and using organic fabrics as opposed to the fast fashion that isn't. So, fashion and sustainability journalist and researcher Kate Fletcher first used the term in 2007 in an article called The Ecologist. She described fast fashion as being not much about the speed, but rather about the greed, about selling more and making more money. Instead, slow fashion is about designing, producing, consuming, and living better. Slow, she added, is not the opposite of fast. There is no dualism, but it's a different approach. So, in which designers, buyers, and retailers and consumers are more aware of the impacts of the products that they're buying on the workers, the community, and the ecosystems. So, it's just really us getting more knowledge about what we are buying, because you want to make sure that whoever you're buying from, you're giving them money, you're building up whatever lifestyle it is that they have. If that lifestyle is abusive to our earth, we definitely don't want to support that. So when shoppers support the unsustainable model of fast fashion production, the problem only gets worse. Oh, that's just what I said, right? Slow fashion is about the conscious consumption. We shop with awareness that the way we consume has an impact on the climate change. I just want to share this with you before we give the key and talk about the key philosophy of slow fashion. So I got to tell you, I would say much younger, my younger days, I was probably not as aware of the fast fashion, of course, as I am now. But I have also done a lot of research. I've gained a lot of information and knowledge. And I'm very conscious about if I buy something that has nanoplastics in it, buying from the thrift shop, I know automatically that that piece of fabric is not going to break down anytime soon, and so then I start thinking about, well, what am I going to use this for? It'd make a great basket, it'd make a great rug. I think about items that really need durability and that can be used and won't break down so fast. So with that, but when I go into a store like REI, which is a co-op, and they very consciously support the environment, people who are making clothing, industries that are making clothing, organic clothing, but they are doing so mindfully, because you can make organic clothing and you can be very disrespectful towards the environment. So you want to know which ones are out there really paying attention, putting that extra energy in and cutting costs where they can, to in a way that is environmentally conscious, not in a way that's just greedy and okay, I'm going to do this more efficient because I want to build an infrastructure that's going to support how many dresses I'm going to get out a day. So I go into REI, and if I'm going to look for something cotton, it might cost a little more, but guess what? They have a little corner of the store where people can actually bring in used items that are organic and accepted brands by REI. So you can go into that corner and you can buy it maybe for $10, $12 as opposed to spending 60, 70, $80 on something from the slow fashion industry. Spending that much on a slow fashion industry piece, is it worth it? Yes, because it's going to last a long, long time. You'll be able to wear it and not feel the nanoplastics on your body. That is why so many people end up throwing these textiles away so frequently nowadays. In my opinion, based on my experience, those types of clothing from the fast fashion industries tend to they fall apart. Maybe at the seams, or they're not feeling. Most of them is they don't feel right on your body, and that's the plastic that you're feeling. At least that's my experience. So with that, let's see here. It says if you want to start a slow fashion business, or you want to be part of this, basically the concepts are this. There's a shift from quantity to quality, both in production and consumption. It's not hell bent on constant growth and accumulating more. It's concerned with the quality. So, and people will come along and support you on that. They will say, okay, I'm going to get this beautiful shirt and this is going to last me a really long time. I'm not going to spend, you could buy 5 shirts that are going to, you're not going to be able to wear maybe in 2 months, as opposed to a couple of shirts you can wear forever. Manufacturing that respects the environment by using low waste processes and avoiding harmful chemicals. So a lot of the people in the slow industry, they will use natural dyes, from flowers and vegetation. You provide workers a living wage and healthy working conditions. So we talk here about a living wage. Today we know that is a challenge for any of us, but this is critical. And if you get an employee, and I've always said this when I did HR, if that employee is happy, well taken care of, they could go home, they have a house, they have an apartment, they have shelter. They have food, clothing, everything that you need as a human being to thrive, to be happy. Guess what? They're going to help your business. It's going to all work out. So, yeah, pay the living wage. That is a living wage. And healthy working conditions. Producing collections in small batches or on pre-order basis to avoid unsold inventory. I was in a manufacturing industry. We went around and around and around on this subject. Production wanted to do it one way, engineers wanted to do it another way. But the pre-order basis is the most conscious, in my opinion, and responsible way to do it. If you have to push it out another couple of weeks, most likely the customer is going to understand. And if they don't initially understand, explain it to them so then they can explain it to their customer base, because sometimes they're buying things from you and they want to put it in their store. So, an uncomplicated supply chain where raw materials and labor aren't scattered across the globe. It uses local materials and employs local workers as much as possible. So, in other words, what they're saying here is instead of, let's say you're making capacitors and you can get the materials much less in Asia, they're saying, well, wait a minute, before you do that, look in America, look in the backyard, figure out what you can do here. The same with organic fabrics. See what's going on here. The same with wool. Before I go on the internet and I start looking at wool that I'm going to order from another country, maybe I need to look up the road at my local farmer. And that's actually what I do. Transparency and honesty in its supply chain and practices. A great example, an ethical jeans brand HNS&T, which has a Hall of Fail page that showcases its challenges and failures. I love that because that is how we learn. That is how we progress. That is how we communicate better. Transparency and honesty. And if someone doesn't honor that, then they don't belong in that circle, in my opinion, because we have no room for negative criticism. Constructive criticism, yes. Trying to figure out how to solve the problem, yes. Using natural fibers, dead stock fabrics, and old textiles for upcycling. Why are these still going into the landfill? Because they are. So this has got to stop. Dead stock fabrics. You or me or any of us, we could go open up a store if we could afford the rent and the insurance and the licenses and the taxes and whatever else we're going to get hit with. We could get this dead stock fabrics and we could sell it for scraps, repurpose it. We could do a whole bunch of things with it. Okay, so now with that fashion sustainability problem, and it just kind of goes into a little bit here, a little bit more detail and some statistics on it. But, with that, I really wanted to share with you. I think you get a really good idea what the slow fashion industry is. I hope it encourages you. I have so many talented artisans and people out in this audience. I mean, some of the things, even over on my Patreon, some of the things that the artists share, and they're like, oh, I'm not sure, this and that, and they do beautiful work. I mean, yeah, there are gateways to becoming, I want to say, growing your business in the slow fashion industry for sure. So with that, I hope that you have a beautiful day. I thank you so much for being with me. And I look forward to your comments, your suggestions, and we'll be getting out more, taking more deep dives into different parts of our environmental issues, our textile issues, and all of it. So with that, you have a beautiful day and love and light.